Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is all about 6 important questions of EB-5 visa.
Honor never grows old. So let's take this blessed opportunity to honor the man of God in our life. Pastor Clint Ross, we see him in the picture here with his lovely wife, Mommy C. We really appreciate all they do in our lives. It's because of their guidance and their mentorship and their love and their commitment to us is how far that we have come as a couple, how far we are going even in business and in destiny in Jesus' name. I also want to take this blessed opportunity to say thank you to my husband, my beloved husband. In the picture, you see him there. We're posed together. We're trying to twin, but I had a sweater in because I'm always feeling very cold. But I thank God for him. He's also a great pillar and a support in my life. And without him, I don't even know where I could be right now. So, my beloved husband, thank you so much for who you are and all you do in our lives as a family. We love you and we appreciate you very much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Question 1. What is the minimum investment needed?
Yeah, so this is a good question. If you want to know exactly how much you're going to need in terms of the amount needed for investment purposes in order to qualify for the EB-5 visa program, so this website is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the USCIS website, and we are on the page that talks about the EB-5 visa classification. In terms of like how much it's going to need, how much shall be required. So there's a drop down here that says capital investment requirements. And what are these requirements? When you open in there, first of all, it says capital means cash, all real and personal or mixed tangible assets owned and controlled by the immigrant investor. So it can be cash, but it can also be real estate and mixed or tangible assets. So I'm going to give you a chance to read the rest of this by your own. But what I was more interested in is the amounts. So if you look at this table right here, so if you are filing a petition that you'd like an EB-5 visa, if it was before March 15 of 2022, the minimum you'd need is $1 million for just a regular area that in which you're investing in, or $500,000 for a targeted employment area. And a targeted employment area is just a place where they are focusing on because they want that place to come up. Maybe it's a little bit more rural. They want it to come up in terms of job creation and all that, in terms of modernization, bringing in infrastructure. So you've invested in such a project. If it was before March 15, 2022, you would have paid only half a million. However, now things changed. On or after March 15 of 2022, if you want to invest in a regular area, it's $1,050,000, whereas the targeted employment area it's $800,000, which includes infrastructure projects. So it's important to note that these numbers they change every five years, as you can see here. The adjustment will occur every 5 years. So it looks like the next adjustment is going to happen on or after January 1 of 2027. So if you are looking to think about filing for your EB-5 visa anytime between 2022 and 2027, these are the numbers that you need to look at. At any time after 2027, they're possibly going to change.
Question 2. How long does it take to get EB-5 visa?
In order to know what is the wait time for any visa, any kind of visa category, whenever you are trying to go into the United States, you have to go and check the visa bulletin because that is where they give the updates. Every month, they produce a new bulletin saying every immigrant visa category, how much longer you have to wait for yours to be processed. So you just go to travel.state.gov. It's a website by the US Department of State, Bureau of Consular Affairs. So since we're in February 2025, so this is the visa bulletin that I'm going to open up. And in case you want to know more about how to read the actual visa bulletin all the way through, you can go and check. I created a video called Why Haven't You Considered the EB-5 Visa? as your entry into the United States. Take a look at that video. You'll learn more about how to actually interpret all the information that's on this bulletin. Okay, EB has EB1 all the way up to EB5. So there's the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth preferences. So EB5 is the fifth preference. And if you want to know how long it takes, you just come and check here on this table. So this is the employment-based. First category, the C here means current. It means the moment you put in your application, you don't have to wait anymore. They start processing it ASAP. So the ones that have a date, that means the applications that were filed on that date are the ones that are currently being processed. So you can see first preference, many of the countries, it's current. The moment you apply, it starts getting processed. Mexico, Philippines, except India. India, the ones that were applied in February of 2022 are the ones that are currently being processed. So that has like a 3 or 4 year wait time. EB-5, the it's current. If you applied from China, it's current. If you applied from India, it's current. If you applied from Mexico, it's current. If you applied from the Philippines, it's current. If you applied from anywhere else in the world, it's current. So that's it. But something important to notice is this: 20% of all the available visas are set aside for the rural, the TEA areas, you know? And then there's 10% that have been set aside for high unemployment areas, 2% have been set aside for infrastructure areas, and then the regular ones is everything else. So that also gives you a point to think about. If there are 10 people who are applying, but most of them, maybe 7 of them, have applied for the infrastructure one, and only 2% of the visas are set aside for infrastructure. You see, there's high competition there. But as you can see, 20% of all of them are set aside for rural areas, targeted the rural areas. So think about it. But the other question is this: okay, yes, it does say C for current, but that doesn't mean that the moment I put in my if I go today morning and submit my application, by evening I will have a visa ready. There's going to be some time. So exactly how much is this time? So I looked at 3 different websites. So let's start with this one. This one is called the Global Residence Index. So if you go to this particular portion, what are the current processing times for EB-5 visa application? So as you can see here, it says that currently the United States USCIS processes EB-5 visa for an estimated time frame of 20.5 to 27 months. So that's about 2 years. 2 years, give or take, 2 years. By the time you put in your application, yes, they start working on it immediately. But by the time you actually get a stamp on your passport, it will take around 2 years. And then but it says, however, processing times can significantly vary. Specifically for rural project petition, recent data has shown expedited processing with instances of approval within just 11 months. That's under a year. So you can see the difference. Whereas the regular ones is taking around roughly 2 years, 20 to 27 months. That's about 2 years, 2 years, 3 months, like that. But for the targeted rural areas, you can get an approval with just 11 months. This one is called EB5 visainvestments.com. So if you look here, it says that in addition to faster approval times, many investors are also getting their employment authorization documents and advanced parole in just 90 days, some even as few as 33 days. What does that mean? So that means that when you get your visa, you also need your work permit. So this employment authorization is work permit, and advanced parole is international travel. Because sometimes once you get into the country, depending on the visa category it is, you cannot leave until the processing is complete. So, but this one, and you don't know how long it's going to take. Like we just saw a few seconds back that sometimes it can take up to 2 years, sometimes it can take up to 11 months. So, however, when you take the EB-5 visa, especially the one that is targeting the rural projects, you can get your work permit, you can get your international travel document in just 90 days, which is 3 months. And some cases, it can even be as few as 33 days. And then look at this comparison. For comparison, investors in urban projects face longer waiting periods due to high demand, and backlogs are expected in this category. So this makes rural investment more efficient choice for those eager to move quickly through the EB-5 visa process. So in these particular people, they found that those who are investing in rural projects, they are seeing approval within 12 months, you see, and some even as little as 9.5 months. So a year, basically around a year, as opposed to 2 years with the regular urban projects. This is one more, the last one. Why I liked this one is because it has a flow chart of the process and how long it takes. So it says EB-5 investment visa process and timeline. So for applicants who are outside the United States, so the name of this visa, the name of sorry, the name of these people is they're called Golden Gate Global EB-5 Investment Fund. So you source your documents, you put all your documents together. That can take 4 to 8 weeks. That's about 2 months. Then you send in your investment. The moment you invest, you file your application for your green card using this particular form I-526E. Now, this process takes 12 to 24 months, as we have seen. If you apply in a targeted area, it can take shorter. If you apply in a regular area with higher competition, it will take longer. So once those 2 years have passed, you get your approval for your conditional green card. You get your conditional green card. Perfect. Now, 6 to 8 months to get an interview for the immigration and the stamp. All right. Now, okay, you have been approved. You have gone to the interview. You have your stamp on your passport. Perfect. Now you immigrate. You get your conditional green card. From moving it from the conditional one to the unconditional one. I know those of you who have dealt with green cards, you understand this. At first, you're given a conditional one for 2 years, I guess, just to see whether everything is going to turn out right. And then if nothing goes wrong or anything, then you can move to the permanent green card. So that's what is happening here. And then, of course, from the unconditional green card, the permanent green card, you get your US citizenship.
Question 3. Can I invest in any business to qualify a EB-5 visa?
So if you were wondering, can I just invest in any old thing and then as long as it's like a million? So we are going to go back to the USCIS website to see what they have to say about that. How do they answer the question, what kind of business should I invest in? So the first thing we see here is that all EB-5 investors must invest in a new commercial enterprise that was established after November 29, 1990. So you can't go and invest in something that was established in the 1800s, 1700s. It has to be after November 29 of 1990. The exception is that if it was before November 29, 1990, so you will purchase it and then you will restructure it and reorganize it in such a way that a new commercial enterprise results. Yes? So you take it, you reorganize it, and then it becomes a new venture, then that one qualifies. Then you can expand it through investment, resulting in at least 40% increase of the net worth or number of employees. So bear that in mind. So now this new commercial enterprise should be able to create full-time positions for at least 10 qualifying employees. Full-time positions for at least 10 qualifying employees. Yes. And then the jobs can be either direct or indirect jobs. Yes. And then so sometimes people, maybe they might not be very keen on how the business landscape is in the United States, so they'll decide to pool their funds. And when they do that, they invest in something called a regional center. So the regional center will sort of manage all those intricate details for them. Okay. And then, of course, with the regional center, it's much easier to at least make sure that 10 new employees have got jobs. Yeah. And then in case of a troubled business is sometimes, it's even explained here, a troubled business, it has been in existence for at least 2 years, but it incurred a net loss, So for that one, you have to make sure that the number of existing employees will be no less than the pre-investment level, because sometimes you can get a troubled business and end up firing people in terms of cost cutting. No, you must prove that the number of employees in it is no less than from whenever you bought it. The website, this is called Second Wind EB-5 program. So it's second sweb5.com, Second Wind EB-5 program. So this gives also another twist. It says that you can get a green card by investing in your own business. If you don't want to go and buy a commercial enterprise or invest in, you know, enterprises that you're not too sure about, you can invest in your own business. The jobs must be created for at least 2 years with a minimum work week of 35 hours per week. So you have to show that, you have to be able to prove that. And then the interesting thing is that you do not need to demonstrate the creation of 10 jobs in the first year, but you must be able to provide W-2 tax forms filled for each employee the second time, at the time of the second application. So that means that within those 2 years, you should have created these 10 jobs, and you have to prove it by providing W-2 tax form. W-2 is like the summary of all the income that the person earned during that whole year. It's like a tax summary that you use to file your taxes. So you have to provide these 10 W-2 forms of the people in your business, because you're investing in your own business, your own company, right? So you have to show the 10 people whom you created jobs for by using that W-2 whenever you are applying for your petition for your I-29. So this is for removing the conditions of your green card. Yeah. And then it gives examples down here. So examples of the direct projects, you can start your own restaurant, you can start a hotel, small hotels, you can start a trucking business, you can start a food store. So it gives you examples of what you can start, as long as the amount is within the stipulated amount. So this is a law firm, Reddy Newman Brown. Yes. So this is a law firm. And they also specialize in legal services, immigration services. So what do they say? What is the investment requirement for EB-5? The important thing here is that they give examples of what you cannot use as and prove it and provide it as proof of investment. The first one says assets acquired through illicit channels, such as criminal activities, directly or indirectly. You can say, oh, I robbed a bank and here's the money now, I want to invest it. I was conning people, I was a fraudster, I did this and that. No, those ones it's an automatically disqualification. The next one, investment money made in exchange for note, bond, convertible debt. So this point says, so you're coming as an investor, so you can't come and lend that money to the business and say that you have invested. That money, you have to invest it, you have to get equity or equity, I don't know how they say it. You can't say that you're going to be receiving interest. You can receive dividends because the equity is shares, you end up getting dividends, but you cannot receive interest and say that now this is part of the EB-5 visa process. That's something totally different. Invested capital with a guaranteed rate of return, those are like bonds. You can't do that and say that now you are investing in the EB-5 visa process. No, you have to actually be at risk. And then invested capital that is governed by a contract between the immigrant investor and the new business that gives the immigrant investor a legal right to repayment, those kind of things. So those ones are not allowed. You cannot use that and say that you are now investing in an EB-5 visa process.
Question 4. Can my family get a green card through my EB-5 investment?
You have to go to the USCIS website, of course, and specifically, we're going to talk about the green card for immigrant investors. And the unique thing about family in terms of the immigrant investors is that, yes, if your spouse and married child under 21 years of age, those are the people who are eligible to apply for a green card as a derivative applicant. So yes, there is a special category called family-based visa. Here in that particular one, I mean, you can apply for your sisters, your brothers, those kind of things. But with this particular EB-5 derivative visa, it's only the immediate family. It's only the spouse or an unmarried children under 21 years of age. And for that, you can be able to apply based on the household, the head of households primary EB-5 visa. So you are going to apply for a derivative green card based on the head of household. Now, the eligibility criteria for adjustment of status as a derivative applicant. So this basically just means that you have to file your documents correctly. So properly file your Form I-485. You can either file it together with the principal, that's together with the person who's filing for the EB-5 visa. You can choose to send in your application meanwhile as the person's visa is still being processed. You can choose to send in your application after the USCIS approves the your principal applicant's application. And then as we said, provided you are the principal's applicant's spouse or child, and for those who are applying when they're already within the United States, you are inspected and admitted and paroled into the United States. This means that you didn't sneak in, you didn't enter in illegally. Like whether you came in as a student, however you came in initially, you were actually inspected and admitted into the United States. Yes, and then you are physically present in the United States at the time you file your I-485. This is like the permission to work and do all those kind of things.
Question 5. What happens if my investment doesn't create 10 jobs?
All right, we have seen this before on this particular USCIS website, but for the sake of the question, we're going to read it again. Job creation requirements. An EB-5 investor must invest the required amount of capital in a new commercial enterprise that will create full-time positions for at least 10 qualifying employees. So the whole point of the EB-5 visa is to create at least 10 qualifying employees. So if you check here, what happens if my EB-5 investment visa will not create, my EB-5 investment will not create jobs? So this particular website is called eb5investors.com. It's a Q&A page. So I can encourage you to go and look at it because it has lots of questions and answers about EB-5 visa. So this question is about what happens if the EB-5 visa does not create the jobs that you had intended to, So this person says, I would like to invest in real estate. It will be multifamily and everything. He has the money. He has 1.2 million, but cannot employ 10 persons. Can I still apply for the EB-5 permanent residence? Is there a way around the job creation requirement? And the answers that have been presented here, it says, job creation is the centerpiece of the EB-5 visa program. Without creating the required number of full-time jobs for qualifying U.S. workers, there can be no EB-5 case. The next person says, no, there is no way around job creation requirements. Direct investment must create at least 10 full-time jobs. You may consider the regional center option, where indirect and induced jobs can be counted. The other person will just check at random, says, job creation is an absolute essential requirement. If you cannot create 10 jobs, you will not be approved. So if we look at this, it's a website of a lawyer. His name is Michael Ashuri, and he is a U.S. immigration lawyer. And of course, if you want to call him, his number's right there. So Ashuri Law says, when the question of what are qualifying employees, so that you're not employing people thinking that you are getting the EB-5 visa only to discover that those were not the qualifying employees and you get rejected. So a qualifying employee means a U.S. citizen, a lawfully admitted permanent resident, or other immigrant lawfully authorized to be employed in the United States, including but not limited to conditional resident, temporary resident, asylee, refugee, or an alien remaining in the United States under suspension of deportation. Now, this definition does not include an alien entrepreneur, the alien entrepreneur's spouse, sons, daughters, or any non-immigrant alien. So you can't employ non-immigrants and and imagine that you're on your way to get the visa. So, important points. Qualifying employees can be any US citizen, permanent resident, or any other immigrant that is lawfully authorized to work in the US. Very important. The EB-5 visa investor, their spouse, and their children do not qualify as the qualifying employees. So they'll not count towards those 10 jobs. And finally, remember that non immigrants do not count.
Question 6. Can I live and work anywhere in the U.S. with a EB-5 visa?
So, what options does an investor have, an EB-5 investor, in terms of the freedom of just living, working, children going to school, all that? Because I know sometimes you can say that, okay, I'm going to invest in a rural area. So, does that mean that I have to go and live in that rural area? Or am I free to just live and work anywhere? And am I tied to that industry? Or can I work in any industry or that kind of thing? So, we're going to look at a number of websites, and this first one is called wholebornpass.com, and it just talks about various options like citizenship by investment, residency by investment, and other things. So here it talks about the EB-5 visa benefits, but look at this one. It says live and work anywhere in the US. With the EB-5 program, you are not tied to a specific location or job. Instead, you are free to live and work anywhere in the United States. Moving on, LinkedIn. When you go to LinkedIn, there is a very insightful article by a lawyer, an attorney. Her name is Romy Wardo, and she's an attorney at Wardo and Associates, business, immigration, real estate, probate, and litigation law firm. So, what does she say? It says this. Once approved by the USCIS, a foreign investor under EB-5 can reside, work, and travel legally anywhere in the United States. Other employment-based visas often have stricter requirements in terms of job flexibility. For example, if you have maybe a particular visa that you came into the country, let's say as a farmer in Minnesota, you're only restricted to do farming in Minnesota. If that kind of work bores you and you want to change, maybe you want to go to Silicon Valley and become a disruptor in the IT industry, you'll be out of status because that's not what your visa talks about. But with the EB-5 visa, those kind of restrictions are not there. And then, so that's it. And then something very important is that the spouse of the EB-5 investor can engage in any employment with unrestricted work authorization. Similarly, the children of EB-5 investors can enroll in school, eventually gain access to the world's most prestigious universities such as Harvard and Stanford. This is very important because in other categories, you might find that the spouse is not allowed to work. You can find that the children are not allowed to go to school or such kind of things. They have to be homeschooled by their stay-at-home spouse and things like that. But with this EB-5 visa, no such restrictions exist. You can live anywhere, you can work anywhere, you can travel. There is no restriction. All right. And the visaguide.world, what does it say? Benefits of EB-5 visa. Receiving an EB-5 visa means you can live, work, and study in the US, as can your family members. You can get a green card, which you can renew continuously. So if you're not interested in going right ahead and applying for citizenship, you can just keep renewing your EB-5 green card. Yes, but there's also the option for applying for American citizenship a few years down the line, you know. And then you can travel in and out of the US without having to apply for visa. You can travel to other countries which allow visa-free passage to green card holders, and you can get your capital investment back if you invested wisely. Of course, the aim of the investment is to gain return on investment and return off the investment. So if you invested wisely, you'll get your money back at the end of the day. And then, of course, you can get access to American healthcare, which is known to be one of the best in the world, and travel to 9 visa-free countries.
Please leave your question in the comment section down below. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you in the next video.